You ready for this? Today I'm going to show you how to throw a cylinder and explain to you the 3 reasons why I think it's the perfect beginner project. I've been doing pottery since 1996 and I've been teaching it since 2002, so that's over 23 years of teaching experience. And I've learned a thing or two, and I always start my students off with throwing a cylinder. And here are the reasons why. The first reason is it allows you to gain control and consistency. So in the beginning, you've seen them, those flat, short ashtrays littering the thrift stores across the world. Although we all have to start somewhere, we want to progress beyond that. In order to do that, we need to learn how to control the clay coming up and also have it be done consistently. The second reason why cylinders are the perfect starting point is because pretty much any ceramic object is made starting from a cylinder. So vases, teapots, lamps. I made that lamp too, and other things in this room, which I will show you at some point in another video. But every single piece, even a plate, when I throw plates, I start with a flat wide cylinder and then the walls become the rim that I flare out. So cylinders are the basis of any other piece in pottery. So if you don't have the cylinder mastered, you can't do anything else. And then the third reason that I want to suggest this shape to begin with is that it'll allow you to track your process over time and your progress. So the cylinder that you can look back on, the one that you started in your first month of pottery, is going to be very different in your 12th month versus your 12th year. So it's a really nice indication, and it's a simple form that you can see your progress and give yourself a nice pat on the back for progressing and sticking with it. So without further ado, let's jump in, and I'm going to hop on the wheel and show you. Before I do, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the wheel. Here are the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a needle tool or pin tool. You're going to need a boxwood stick, a metal rib, and your wire cutter. You're also going to need a bowl of warm water and a sponge. I like to have nice warm water because my hands are going to be in the clay a lot. You want to roll your clothing out of the way, make sure your fingernails are short, take off any jewelry, and put up your hair if you have long hair like I do, because it's just going to be in your face and it's going to get clay all over it and just be a pain. And then you should be good. So you're going to take balls of clay the size of your fist to start, and you're going to place the clay right in the middle. Add just a little bit of water, not a lot, just a little drizzle, but you want it to be wet all over. And then you're going to push down with your right hand, like a karate chop. You're going to place your left elbow right in as close as you can get it to your belly button. You're going to lean into the clay with that left arm and apply pressure down with your right hand. This stage, we're just getting the clay stuck to the wheel. We're also starting to center it, but what we really need to do is draw the clay up and down. So to do that, we're going to squeeze towards us, so you're still pushing away with your left hand, squeezing with your right hand, and following the clay as it comes up. Once you're at the top, you're going to push down. So you're going to, again, take that karate chop side of the hand, you're going to push down on the clay. But if you only push down, you're going to lose control really quickly. So the left hand needs to be squeezing around the clay as the right hand is pushing down. What you're doing is compressing it in on itself. We're getting all the little platelets of clay aligned on the wheel. Again, you're going to do that. So squeezing towards you, pushing away from you, keeping it a nice cone shape. We're not lifting the clay. We're just following up and then back down again. Once your clay is centered, and it might take a couple of tries, so don't move on to the next step until you've got a centered piece of clay. You're going to wrap your hands around the clay and drill your thumbs straight down in the middle. Once they're close to the bottom, about 1/4 inch away, you're going to widen your thumbs apart from each other, and then take a sponge and get inside and really smooth and clean that space up. You're compressing and you're making it a nice, flat, smooth surface. It's so much easier to do at this stage. Now, I always like to recenter my walls here because they always get thrown off a bit. And when they're recentered, I start digging in at the bottom with my thumb and allowing the clay to be drawn up. You want to keep everything nice and steady here. Now, when you're just learning to pull up walls, they have a tendency to flare out. So if this is happening to you, you want to stop and collar them back in. They will go out of control if you don't do this. So I suggest the second you start seeing or noticing that they're flaring out, stop what you're doing, bring them back in, and then continue your throwing. So now I'm going to dig with my right fingertips right underneath the clay, right at the wheel head, and draw that clay up. That's always where your extra clay is left, is at the bottom, and we need to bring it up to the top. I actually usually do this in about 2 pulls. It's probably going to take you many more. I like to also keep my hands free of slip because then my fingers have better sensation and I can tell what's going on with the clay more. If your lip is uneven or wobbly or your piece is too tall, you can trim that extra clay off with your pin tool. And then you're going to take your boxwood stick. You're going to use the angle of the tool alongside the wall. I always like to keep my hand on the inside so I make sure I'm not going through it. You're going to scrape straight down until the tip of the tool touches the wheel head. And in that groove that you just made, pour some water. This will prevent that clay that you're about to remove now from sticking back to your piece. So you're going to scrape it off. Make sure that you collect all of it. Next, what you want to do is get all the water out from the inside of your piece. Squeeze it out and then scrape the walls nice and smooth with the rib tool. So I'm gently pressing into the tool and also pushing the tool gently into the clay. Take your time smoothing out your rim. This is the part that's going to touch your lips and you want to make sure that it's got a nice smooth rounded edge. So just gently compress with the sponge, then pour water around the whole piece, cut under it, and you've got yourself a cylinder. Now in the beginning, I highly recommend cutting your pieces in half. I know it might seem like you don't want to, but trust me, it's worth it because you often can't tell what's actually going on in the walls of your piece. You'll think that you pulled up all the extra clay, but this will reveal any inconsistencies, any places where you're leaving extra clay, and what you're looking for is this, nice, thin, even walls and base. So if you're done, scrape off the extra clay, clean off the wheel head, making it nice and dry, and then you can do it all again. So you want to repeat this process over and over and over again. This is how you're going to be able to track your progress over time. So with the centering, you really want to lean your body weight into the clay. I often tell my students that it's like you're trying to push a heavy piece of furniture across the room. If you live with anybody, ask them to come up behind you, put their hands on your hips, and pretend like they're trying to push you across the room. This will give you the sensation that you want while you're working on the wheel. You really need to anchor that left elbow into your body and lean in with your whole weight. Another thing that will totally transform your throwing is to recenter your piece once you've opened it before you start pulling up the clay. And in the beginning, you're going to have a lot of clay at the bottom, so really taking the time to dig under before you start pulling up. When I'm throwing or when you see somebody else who's had a lot of experience, we make it look quick, but you really want to stay at the bottom and spend your time down there. Speaking of spending time, you also want to spend a lot of time making sure that the base of your piece on the inside is exactly how you want it to be. So compress the clay around if anything's changed since you did it before. Take any of the water out, but now's your time to do it. When you're removing that extra little bit of clay from the base, it's going to make it a lot easier to remove the piece. It's also going to make it easier to trim. And sometimes it takes a couple tries to get it all gone. But like I said, put that water in there so that clay releases and doesn't stick back to your walls. It'll make all the difference. Make sure your rim is nice and smooth because we're going to have that. These are going to be little cups. These are little tumblers that I make. They're going to be resting against your lips.
So you want to make sure that it's going to feel nice. I highly recommend practicing taking pieces off. Even if you're not going to keep them, go through the motions of using the boxwood stick, cutting them off, sliding them onto your hand, and placing them gently on a board. That's going to really help when you get a piece that you want to keep. I really enjoyed sharing these little points with you, and I look forward to doing more demos very soon.
If you are curious at all about the clothes that I've been wearing throughout the video, if you sew, I do too. I actually make all my own clothes, and I will make sure I link all the details of the patterns I used in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon.